right, welcome back, everybody, to the Behind the Lava Lava podcast. We are Fiapoko Samoan vets who like to get together and chop it up on various subjects. I'll be your host for today, Spencer. I'm joined with Johnny, Mike, T, and today we got a very special guest, the Mighty Uptown Swuite, along with his daughter, Moana. You know, she might be dipping in here and there, but just welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We just want to throw out again, of course, we are sponsored by Matai Watches. It's that timepiece that tells you the time and tells everybody else where you're from. So, Matai Watches. We also have a new sponsor as well. We are also sponsored by Pasifika Corned Beef Kitchen. So we just want to shout them out. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks for the support of all our listeners as well. So we're going to get this started because we are featuring, like I said, the Mighty Uptown Swuite. This is a very dear friend of mine. I'm a big fan of his music. The only man who can serve you on the mic, lay that down, and serve you in the ring too. And so I just want to kick it to him real quick. Actually, you want us to refer to you as Uptown, Mo, however you prefer, brother.
Yeah, it's really up to you guys, man. Most people know me as Uptown Suite. Over here, Coach Mo. I said Coach Boxing out here, so I'm just hands down in the community via boxing. Out here in Vacaville, California. So, Solomon, Mo, Uptown, whatever you guys feel like, man.
Right on. Hey, I'm gonna kick you a question real quick, and I'm pretty sure that you're probably sick of answering this too, because I'm pretty sure you've been asked this in every interview you've done. But do you want to give an explanation for how you got the name Uptown Swuite? Like the origins of that, or like...
Yeah. I can. Yeah, definitely. Cool. So for people that don't know, I was a big fan of Blaxploitation films growing up. So all those old Cooley High, just that whole era. That's the music. Those are the movies that my parents grew up on, and being just kind of into that whole era, 60s, 70s. Yeah, Uptown Suite was basically just means yin and yang. Uptown Suite, Suite. You put it together. I put SUITE, SWEET, and I just made one word, and it was basically like, Uptown. In all these Blaxploitation films, it was always a bad part of town, and Suite, obviously, Suite is the center. A hotel suite or what have you is always the place that you're looking to be, the pinnacle, of that hotel. So it was basically yin and yang, good and bad, good and evil, what have you. And that's what it came to be. But it took a long time. I mean, and coming up with the name, we used to rap outside the college up here. And I went through a whole bunch of names, tried to make them make sense. None of them made sense. And that was just the one that we settled on, or that I settled on.
That's what's up. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, bro. I kind of want to set the stage a little bit because I just want to kind of reconnect how I got to know you. So yeah. I'm throwing this back all the way to 2008, which shouldn't be that long ago, but I guess it kind of is. But
yeah.
So 2008, so I'm a big hip hop head. Hip hop was it's my favorite form of music. And when I first got my very first laptop, all I did was go on YouTube every day and just look for freestyles and raps and all this other stuff. So I find the page for the Wake Up Show. For those who don't know, the Wake Up Show is a prominent hip hop show hosted by Sway and DJ King Tech. And it was just kind of the place to make MCs. Guys would go there and get discovered and, show what they were made out of. Well, the Wake Up Show was hosting this contest called the 100K Battle. And the 100, so they had all these independent artists they were trying to give exposure to, where they make their track. People go vote for them online, and whoever wins gets 100K worth of beats, right? And so I'm just tuning in, just having fun, looking at all this going on, and I see this Uso come on there, and he just starts tearing it up, and it's just man, he was just turning heads. He just had the coolest track on there, had the best freestyle on there, and he just tore it up. And it was funny because I see people are debating on the comments. It's oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it was written, maybe it's off the top of the head. And I just remember just kind of commenting, and then he actually responds. And I was oh, he's actually reaching out and connecting with people and whatnot. So I go on to your MySpace I go into the MySpace and I see you've got some mixtapes that you're pushing. I'm like, but I didn't know nothing about computers. I just got this laptop. I'm like, I don't know what a torrent is. I'm like, hey, I'm afraid of downloading stuff and getting a virus. Any way I could like send you money and, you send me a physical copy, and you're like, don't worry, I got you. I gave you my address, and sure enough, you send me these mixtapes. Like, you burned them right off your computer. They I still had the handwritten, like Uptown Suite, Soul Food, and all that. Mm-hmm. Bro just hooked me up. It didn't even ask for payment. And so that was how we first kind of became connected. And over the years, I've tried to return the favor, offer some artwork that I send your way. I'm like, bro, he's been sharing his artwork with me, no charge for all these years. I'll always do the same for you. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Although I do feel bad because I think I told you once before that as huge of a fan and a friend that I am now, I actually voted for the other guy, Murdoch.
And that's
the other Uso on there.
Yeah. We're actually, me and Murdoch are actually really good friends. So,
that's cool.
To Murdoch, man.
Yeah, that's another Uso, and he tore it up too. So to be fair,
yeah,
so
he's a beast. Yeah, Murdoch is a beast.
For sure. So throwing it back to you, brother. So what's going on with you? What's new? I know you got a new album. Do you want to speak on that, or?
Yeah, so we do. We got a project called Walk on Water. So yeah, that's from me and Off Balance and Digital Martyrs. We used to be a 6-piece crew. There was 6 of us. It was me, Off Balance's brother, Archetype, another guy named Cypher Law, and Man of Arms. There was 6 of us. Yeah, DJ Uppercuts, and everybody just kind of disbanded and went their own ways or whatnot. So what was left, in the aftermath of that was me and Off Balance. And Off Balance is actually the owner of the gym that I coach at. So his nieces, my nieces, his daughters, I've coached them in boxing since they were kids. So when I moved back from New Zealand in 2012, I had completely just, was disgruntled with music or whatnot. And I said, you know what, I'm going to just do something else. And, it ended up being him that kind of resurrected just the passion for it. He hit me up and said, hey, I'm from this crew called Digital Martyrs. I said, yo, never heard of you. And but I ended up working with his mom at the time. So in working with his mom, we had that mutual connect. He lived in the same city, and I befriended his daughters. They were getting bullied at school. He asked for my help because he knew I was a boxer, and it just blossomed into this relationship, that grew musically, artistically, in all these different arenas. And now we're really good friends and whatnot, and we consider each other, brothers, Usos, what have you. And so that's our album. This is going to be our debut album, but we've really been kind of putting together for a long time. And the majority of this album was recorded during COVID and it shut down when we had nothing to do. So we just started recording again, and this is basically what came out of it.
That's dope. And that's Darnell, right?
Darnell, yeah.
So I want to give a special thanks and shout out to him because I believe you might remember a few years ago I was going to I was finishing my degree in media arts and animation. I made this short animated project called Super Goose. I reached out through you and you connected me with him, and he made a beat because I wanted some music for the background, and he hooked it up, man. Like he's a solid dude, and I still appreciate him to this day for that. That plus, of course, all the great music you guys have made together. Because I remember you had that first mixtape was like Bullets and Butterflies or Ballad of the Bullet or something like Ballad of the Bullet.
Yeah, and that was good. It was a good tape. We had a lot of people. We worked with Styles P from the Locks, a whole bunch of different people on there, man. Helter Skelter. If anybody's familiar with Helter Skelter, just
rest in peace, Sean P.
Yeah, there you go. Rest in peace, Sean P, man. So a lot of the people that we grew up with in hip hop, that a lot of the people, who came up in the era, grew up with, we've been able to work with. And for us, that's big. It was great to work with some of the heroes we came up with. So a lot of them were on that record, man. KRS-One, we got to work with him, the teacher, the master. And we just been blessed. I've been blessed by the culture, to dabble in it artistically and to put out into the universe and receive back, man. Whether it's monetarily or not monetarily, just love and respect, admiration for the culture, and yeah, having people return the love and admiration for what we do and what we bring to the culture. That's what it's about for me, man. That's what it's always been about.
That's what's up.
So you mentioned New Zealand, and
Yes.
that you moved over there temporarily. So
Yes,
if you don't mind me asking, what exactly went on over there? How was your time there? And did it help you grow as an artist, the experiences you have over there?
So it did, yeah. So my time in New Zealand, me and my wife talk about it all the time. And so when I went to New Zealand, I think I moved to New Zealand in 2010. And at the time, I was just over here just going through whatever I was going through, what have you. A lot younger. I'm 38 now. I was 24 when I moved to New Zealand. I had just cleared my record, my adult record, getting in a lot of trouble, what have you, as you do. So right when I cleared my record, the opportunity opened up to go tour over New Zealand with Chong Ni and his band. There was a startup band called Foundation. And Al Frisk from the Decepticons was actually the first one that reached out to me from over there. But I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave the state. I couldn't leave the country. Didn't know anything about, leaving, period. I just knew that, once I cleared my record, I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to change my environment and grow my mind and get away from all the negative things that were here that were still holding me down, more so because of my own, state of mind. So that opportunity opened up and I left. I left with nothing, nothing in my pocket. And I just knew I wanted to change, man. And I said, hey, they're playing my music over here. Let me go see what it's about, man. And but it was definitely a turning point in my life. I came back the first time and I looked at everything different, It was just like the whole world opened up to me in terms of just being open-minded, seeing something different. I came back, I cut off a lot of the negative things and the negative people that I had grown up around. And then I left again. And when I came back the second time, after I was gone on hiatus for almost a year or 2 years, I just cut off everything completely and decided to, I'm going to try something different because what I've been doing in my personal life wasn't working at all. And so, yeah, so it was definitely a game changer in my life, in terms of where I'm at now. If I would have never went to New Zealand, who knows where I'd be? Would I have a family? You don't know. So it was definitely a part in my plan, in my journey that needed to happen in order for me to be where I'm at and in order for me to grow into who I needed to grow into and who God wanted me to grow into or grow to be, so to speak.
No, that's dope. And it's cool to hear that too, because for those who have followed you, it's like there's that, the whole New Zealand chapter. You got connected with a lot of people there that I don't know if you worked with over the years and probably still work with to this day. It just hearing you tell it, it feels like your version of the Bone Thugs story. They got that one-way bus ticket from Cleveland to Cali so they can find Eazy-E. That's like it. You got that one-way ticket. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing out there, but I got to get away. I got to try to do something. And it worked out for you.
Yeah.
From the sounds of it.
It's always, I go back to, if you guys are familiar with Blacklicious, hip hop heads are familiar. And on, on their first album, Nia, they have a skit and they say, it's God's act, we're just actors in it. And, that's something that resonated in my life post New Zealand. That still resonates, as you do. Almost like, the story of the prodigal son, in the Bible. All these stories, my dad is a deacon. My grandfather was a reverend. And you guys, being fellow islanders, growing up, you're just surrounded by religious figures. And a lot of times, going through it in our own infancy or whatnot, just thinking we know it all, feel poco or whatnot, we don't adhere or don't hear those lessons until we get older. If, God blesses us to get to those stages where we are able to go back and say, hey, this makes sense now. Like I said, we're just God, that skit always rings in my head. It's God's act, we're just actors in it. So we're never in control of our path at all, And that's something I've come to learn just through my life and through growing that, everything is written. Your path is already mapped out even before you know it. New Zealand was already mapped out even before I knew it. It was just something that had to happen, man.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to continue on with this, but first we got ad read here by our good friend Johnny. You want to take it away, Johnny?
Yeah, sure. So this is for our sponsor, Ray Keller. Ask yourself, if I were to die tonight, would my family struggle to make just next month's bills? Not to mention every month after that. If you answered yes to that question, then life insurance is your best way to help your family be prepared. None of us know when it's going to be your turn to go back home. We've all known more than one person that was very young and healthy, yet still passed away unexpectedly. Now, the younger you are, the chances are smaller that you pass away before your parents, but are you willing to take the chance with your family's life? If not, then the next thing you need to figure out is how do you get the most out of life insurance with the smallest amount of money? Most agents are captive agents selling only their captive agents options, which are always the most expensive. You need an independent agent like Ray Keller, who started Independent Island Life Insurance agency specifically to help everyone get the most affordable life insurance possible. He maintains access to every carrier out there and is never beat on price or quality. I mean, how do you beat someone on price or quality when they have access to it all? Short answer, you don't. Many have tried and all have failed. Reach out to Ray Keller at 435-200-4869 or find him on Facebook at Independent Island Life Insurance. Remember, with life insurance, you're either early or late. You're never on time.
So this question is mainly for our listeners because our listeners love to find out from our guests if they are related or if they're cousins with our guests. So Can you tell us your origins, where you grew up, where you're from, your parents?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I grew up in my early years. I grew up in Daly City, California, and San Pablo, California. If people don't know where San Pablo, California is, it's basically Richmond. I said so. Richmond, California. Coach Carter, for anybody who needs a frame of reference. I grew up right down the street from Richmond High, or whatnot. And in my teenage years, Vacaville. I grew up in Vacaville, California, and Fairfield, California. If you guys are familiar with another Uso who runs a podcast called 30 to Life, brother Uso Ron, he's from out here. Yeah, so he grew up in Vacaville, right down the street, actually, from where my parents stay. So it's a small little town outside of Sacramento, in between Sacramento and Vallejo, California. But that's basically where I spent my teenage years on up, through my adult years, minus the hiatus in New Zealand or whatnot. Yeah, so I always tell everybody, this is where I'm from, is Vacaville, California. My father's from Ofu Manoa, the Manoa Islands, America Samoa. Yeah, so she come Ofu. And my mom is from Leone, Leone in Western Samoa. So yeah,
Tutuila on the map, eh?
Yeah. So that's where as far as indigenous origins, that's where we're from. That's where my family is from.
What's your last name?
Malili.
Malili. Okay.
Yeah, Malili.
My dad's from Sili.
Oh,
yeah. So we're from Manua. Yeah.
So my last name was actually supposed to be Talele. Yeah, Talele was the last name, but names are always changing with titles and different things. Salah was our last name for a while. My dad's name was actually Poto Talele, Poto T Talele. But when he came over through the military, as you guys most likely know, you guys are all veterans, from what I understand. The easiest way off the island is through the military. And America Samoa, I said, has, if I'm correct, the highest, military enlistment rate per capita, in the United States. So a lot of people have made their way off the island through that. But in making their way off the island through the military, names change, and they become something different. You leave the island as, John, and you end up as Zachary. And that's what happened to my dad. So my dad's name was Poto T Talele. When he came out of the military, he ended up Peter T Malili. And my grandfather's name was T Malili. That was just his full name, T Malili. So my dad took the T, put it as his middle initial. So his name is Peter. The T doesn't mean anything. And then the Malili became the last name. And that's where we were born. But there's another Malili family out there, but, we're not related to them.
Yeah, the old running tradition in Manua is normally the family would take on the patriarch's Matai title as their last name. So like my last name Swuite is my grandfather's Matai title. And so when he got his title, my dad and all of his siblings changed all their last names to his title. It was the same. Go back a few generations. It's and before that, and all the way up to Lalangi. So yeah, it's just an old tradition. They still do. I mean, we haven't done it. Or at least my generation hasn't done it yet. But we just maintained my grandpa's last name or my grandpa's title. So,
I know my dad's name changed to Salah. It was Salah for a while, and then but now it's back to Mali. So
nice. See that? Yo soy Pela. Yeah. So I was gonna ask. So like, you've been in music for a long time.
Yes.
It's been quite a few years. How has your style, right, evolved from when you started to where it is now? Because even as you see music now, it changes throughout the years. Different styles become this, and this. So have you tried to maintain, try to double down and stick to your original style, or have you evolved it as you've gone through the years in the way you make music?
Definitely evolved. So, if you guys have heard the Soul Chef records, that's definitely evolution of what we started as, boom bap. We were real boom bap, when I started out with City Lights and just myself as Uptown Suite prior to City Lights. That was the stuff I grew up on, man. Hieroglyphics and everything really, I grew up on all types of music, man, in terms of what hip hop was or what type of hip hop I grew up on. But boom bap definitely, constituted a big part of the type of hip hop that I grew up on. I'm a 90s kid. We was all listening to boom bap, man, and G-Funk and all, so it was all mixed in there together. But nowadays, I don't listen to a lot of hip hop, a lot of new hip hop nowadays, so I kind of rely on Darnell or Off Balance to stay current. So he'll throw me stuff or tell me, hey, this is what's going on. And I just go with that. I listen to, whatever, Santana, all this other music, George Benson, just, you'd be surprised. People be surprised. Like, hey, man, where did you get all your styles from? All your new styles. But when I'm like, I don't know. I said from Off Balance. I don't really listen to hip hop too much. Up to like a certain year, maybe 2000, 2001. I think for a while, the last album I bought was the first Blue in Exile record. And after Blue in Exile, I just there was like a 12-year hiatus of I didn't feel like listening to no hip hop, man, or whatnot. But you grow, you evolve, as human beings, and things change, styles change, taste change, in music, in food, and whatever it is. A lot of that hip hop that really, held its early weight in my life, so much it's just changed. I mean, I'm older. I'm 2 years away from 40. I got a family. I don't feel like listening to a lot of loud stuff anymore. And but in terms of style, it's just kind of evolved, man, with I guess like I said, with Off Balance in his ear and just life, man. Life in general was kind of taking it and twisted it and formed it into what it is. And I'm sure Spencer has heard, the evolution, through listening to Digital Martyrs. It's all over the place, man.
Oh, that's for sure. It's actually been a really enjoyable experience to basically witness the evolution come about because, we're close to the same age. And it's fun to, listening to your music actually takes me back to where I was when I first heard it, whenever I do. And it's funny because as we get older, it's like our tastes kind of change a bit as well. And so your clip of you just slaying on the Wake Up Show going around, I'm like, that's such a dope, epic moment, went viral. But you're also a very different MC nowadays than from that era. You've gotten much more mellow, much more chill. When you say, I don't really like loud music no more, I'm like, it kind of reflects, but it's so great. I just wanted to even congratulate you guys on the Lua album because it sounds so great because it's got that boom bap feel, and it really, Soul Chef really brings that production that feels soulful. Like I really love that because it's just a whole other experience in itself. It is wonderful. And I know you guys hit some like really good milestones on the release day. Like I remember you was posting like on Spotify, you already hit like so many thousands of hits and whatnot. And I was posting that. I'm like, what a great day for Poly Music, because that was the day before the Iem Tongi.
Oh man.
He tore it up, and then we get your album the next day. I'm like, oh man, it's all going up.
So. Yeah. And that, the funny thing about that, both Soul Chef records, I said the majority of them were all recorded in 2011. So they just never released. So Lua, the entire Lua album, I recorded all that before I moved back to America. It just never saw the light of day because Soul Chef was going through things with his record company over in Japan. And it just sat on the shelf. But all those records are over a decade old. So listening to them back now, I said, they didn't sound too bad. I thought they were dated, but it's dated to us because we've heard them over and over and over again. But listening to it back now, with a refresh spin on it and him taking it and, putting new beats over it, when I said, okay, so, it's not dated. It stood the test of time. And that's what we were always in it for. I mean, I don't know anybody else, but I was always in it to be timeless, And actually, our first mixtape was timeless. We called it Timeless. So, that was kind of a foreshadowing of what was to come, But my heart was, set on that from the beginning, and my heart is still set on that, man, to be bigger than the music.
We had THT Cyrus on, and Spencer at that time was bringing you up.
Yeah.
To have you on. And then he shared the clip, and I was like, oh, man, I seen this before. We talked about slow mo before we started recording. Shout out to Deus. But back on his MySpace way back then, that's how I seen it. I think he shared it on his MySpace page way back in, what was it, 08? Before it shut down.
I think, it was 08.
Yeah, because that was around the last times MySpace was still, where we used to go check for the new messages and profile comments.
Yeah.
But getting past all that, I didn't really keep up, but I checked out, man, Lou was not dated at all. Man,
yeah.
I started listening to it, and immediately, like, the vibe that it gave me was 93 till infinity, which is funny.
Yeah.
Till infinity, and that's exactly what came to mind. And the production's on point, the storytelling, man. My favorite track right now is Ready to Ride. And,
hey, funny you say, because Slow Mo actually was supposed to be on that song, but
man,
he couldn't get the vocals for his verse over, and they got lost in space, what have you. And he just ended up not being on it. And that song Ready to Ride was actually originally for a soundtrack for, I can't remember the name of the movie. It's some movie about a youth biker gang over in Boston or Baltimore. I can't remember the name, but that's what that song was originally for or whatnot. And it got dropped from it, so it ended up being revamped or whatnot. But also, if you listen to Lua, I don't know if you were able to tell that there was no curse words on it.
Yeah, that too. It, like, even I forget, it was Play a Role, I think, where you talk about ish, where you saying ish instead. Like, that's as adult as it gets, I think. When it comes to language.
At that time, like I told you, as we touched on earlier, how New Zealand was a pivotal point, in my life in terms of, just crossroads for myself personally. So that was when I stopped cursing in my music. When I made the attempt to stop cursing in my music, so from then, now I don't, like, completely on all the digital Martyrs stuff, there's no curse words. And even people that are featured on it, I cut the curse words out, Not so much because I'm an adult or whatnot. I mean, I was an adult back then, but it's just what it did, and trying to make that shift, I was like, man, always cursing, and always being negative. I was like, man, it just put me in this negative space all the time. So I started moving to, eliminate these things. And Devon, you've heard him on a bunch of songs. He's on Rain Dance. He's on Better Homes and Gardens on Lua. He's a real spiritual dude, man. And he's actually from out there in Oahu too. So funny story with Devon. He was the first one that brought me out to Hawaii to do a show with Big Dave and Slow back in the day. And he was stationed in the Navy. He ended up getting out of the Navy and coming to Vacaville. His sister was stationed at the Air Force Base in Vacaville. So he called me up one day. He said, hey, man, I think I stay close to you, man. I think I saw a sign for Vacaville. And I said, where you at? He said, I'm at this Travis Air Force Base. I said, man, you're right around the corner. So we linked up, and that's a real spiritual brother, man. He's been a real strong backbone, strong pillar of support in my life, you know, in recent years. He was at my wedding. You know, he's just a great brother, man. But we were talking, and I was already in that process of changing. And he said, man, he said, there's so many words, you know, in the world. He said, why do we have to relegate ourselves to using curse words? And so there's so many better choices. And that was just kind of like an epiphany for me. Like, hey, man, this is the right decision, you know, for me to just eliminate curse words, you know, completely from my music, you know, not for myself, for anybody that wanted to listen to it. You know, also, it just made it easier to shoot songs out to people because there was no curse words. I didn't have to have radio edits. But it was just, you know, that was the start of it. So all those songs that were recorded, like I told you, on Lua, on Soul Chef, the first project, they were all recorded in New Zealand at that time when I was, you know, spiritually growing, moving away from, you know, street life, moving away from crime and all these things that held me down. And cutting curse words out was, you know, just a big thing, you know, in me moving forward in my progression to becoming a better person and the person that God intended me to be.
That's amazing growth, and just it's timeless. That album is timeless because you cannot tell. And for our listeners, whether you're hardcore hip hop or just a casual, you know, I like a good beat. If you put this Lua album on, especially summertime right now, if you're driving around on road trips, I highly recommend you put it on because once you start playing it, you want the whole thing to play through. That's just how great the production is. It's just you want it to keep playing, and it fits. It fits just like that mellow mood just flowing all the way through. So if you're driving and you got something you want to keep your mind occupied, this is that album.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm glad you dig it, those.
For sure. And, you know, and like on that note too, it's like it kind of checks off two boxes. Like if you want something deeper, like you really pay attention to the lyrics because you'll get something there. But if you want to just as the ambience, like, you know, like he was saying, it checks that box too. It's like it's good listening for whatever your itch is. And you know, I just wanted to say something too, like on the point that you were making, because I try to have this conversation with some people in regards to like you know, media production and things like that, shows that I'm into, and I try to get this point across where I get tired of some shows that are marketed as adult shows. You know, it's like I'm still trying to break into animation and film production. I'm still not quite there yet. Got my degree, but, you know, still working on getting there. And so I pay attention to a lot of animated shows and things like that just to take notes and be like, okay, what kind of stuff do I want to work on? What kind of stuff are they making now? And what always gets kind of annoying to me is what's marketed as adult animation, because it's marketed as adult animation because they say curse words or make dirty jokes and things like that. And I'm like, in my mind, this isn't really mature television. This is what a teenager thinks of mature television is. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they said the dirty word, so that's what the adults do, so therefore it's adult. But I'm like, with your music, it's another illustration of the point that it's something that you could put on for anybody without worrying about offending. But there's no question it's a mature album, though. Mature in the sense that it deals with real world issues, gets you thinking, you know, and I just really appreciate that in your music. It kind of makes the point that I try to convey to people, that just because something's like dirty and foul doesn't mean it's adult. In fact, it's kind of an immature person's idea of what makes something mature. You know, it's like,
yeah,
your stuff is no doubt mature, but actual maturity, because it takes maturity to understand those points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So congrats on that, and congrats on the success that album's had. I wanted to throw a few things out there too, because I remember you talking about this a little bit on social media. I was hoping you could elaborate a bit more. Aside from music, I know that it was in your adult years that you learned to speak our ancestors' native tongue. Like, do you want to share that story, or like how you came to learn to speak Samoan? Because I'm still in the category of being monolingual. I only know English, so I'm trying to emulate what you're doing because I want to get there too.
No, so it's, and like I said, Samoan is my second language. It's a secondary language. So it's, English is always going to be my first language. So when you hear me speak English, obviously, it's a lot better. So it's something that's always in progress, always in work. But when I found out I was going to have a daughter, there was always that interest there. And I remember Kaz, if you guys know Kaz, the field style. So the field style, is another one, of close friends, but a mentor, especially, releasing full Samoan rap albums at a time when, there weren't even Samoan rap songs, So he told me one day, and prior to me finding out that I was having a baby, he said, hey, man, he said, Samoa is always there. He said, it never leaves. Samoa is here, it's inside. He said, so it's just waiting on you to activate it. That language, it's always there. And it's always going to come to you. As long as you have, it can be Samoan blood, it can be Mexican blood, it can be Fijian blood, but that blood running inside of you is always, there, waiting to just activate the culture, everything, you just have to have that interest and have that heart for it. So finding out about my daughter, something just clicked. My parents didn't speak Samoan in the household growing up because, my pops came over in the military, as, I'm sure, a lot of other Samoans share the same story. They were mistreated, as people do, when they don't understand something. And in trying to assimilate into American culture at that time, into the U.S., my dad thought that it was better to not speak the language at all. He said, okay, I have to be like this. I have to speak like this. And growing, when we got a little older, none of my siblings speak any Samoan, aside from the basic words that we all know. Hey, uso, solid, and things like that. And, my dad came to me one day and he said, son, I apologize. He said, I apologize for not speaking Samoan. He said, I just didn't know any better. He said, I was trying to raise a family in a foreign country, and I thought this was the way to assimilate. He said, I didn't know that, this wasn't the way to do. He said, if I can go back, I would speak it. But I told him, I'm having I'm having a daughter. I said, now is the time. I said, now is the time to make up for that. So I used to work graveyard shift at the time. I was working heavy machinery. And I told my dad, man, they live right down the street. They still live right down the street. I said, I'm going to come over every day after work, man. I said, before I go home, before my wife goes to work, I said, I'm going to come over an hour in the morning. So I went over every day and I started taking notes, in my phone. I would write down words. I would ask him things. I would take it. And everything that he gave me in that hour, I'd take it home and study. Then I would go back to work at night and I would create dialogue with an imaginary person. I would just talk, hey, yo, what am I? And I would talk to this imaginary Samoan person. And that's how I started to build my Samoan, through that. But I always knew, my dad told me I remember one time my brother told my dad, man, I want to learn Russian. My dad told my brother, now, how are you going to learn Russian? You don't even know Samoan. Yeah, doesn't sound like something Samoan would say. But my dad said, if you want to show pride in your people, he said the best way to show pride in who you are and where you're from is to learn your language. And so I took those steps, and I always knew something was missing, inside, and speaking language was a big part of that. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take these steps to learn this, because if my parents pass on tomorrow, my siblings don't speak it, I don't speak it, how is this language going to survive? It's not a language like, even though you can go and learn a little more, than before now. So William, he's teaching, he's all over the place now or whatnot. But even then, sometimes I'll take things to my dad and be like, nah, that's wrong, son, or whatnot. But, learning that language, keep that language alive. I want to have something to pass on to my kids so that it doesn't just die off with my parents. And not even that, it's there, it's inside of me. So it's been a long journey. I started about 6 years ago, and I'm still learning every day. But it's a journey that I embrace, because it's part of us. It's who we are. And even then, I tell, whether or not you speak Samoan or you take, that journey to learn your native tongue, it doesn't change the fact that we have Samoan blood running inside of us. Nobody can ever take away the fact that we're Samoan. Whether you're Afakasi, whether you're full blood, if you speak the language, good for you. If you don't speak the language, and somebody speaks the language, stand by, encourage also to speak the language, help them out. So many times I see people put others down for not being able to speak the language. Well, hey, you should be helping your brother out, man. That's what we're supposed to do anyway. Help them learn about their culture if they don't know their culture. That's how we build. Communities build through building. They don't build through tearing down. It's never too late to start the journey. And like I said, I started mine about 6 years ago, and I'm still on the journey. But it's been a big blessing, in my life, learning about myself, learning about my culture. And like I said, it's just been a big shift, from early on who I was, as Uptown Suite. That's why I look back at the Wake Up Show. When I went to New Zealand, they were reciting it word for word. I look back now and I see the mind frame of where I was at the time. And when people bring it up, man, I cannot stand it because I knew who I was at the time. And I was such a different person in my mind, in my heart, in my spirit. And I'm just like, yeah, that was good. But that was back then. And I'll leave that back then, And this is now. And this is where I'm at now. And I know where I'm at now. And I love where I'm at now.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to backtrack on all of the growing you've been doing. I guess no. I can see where you're coming from with that. I remember it actually because people know the freestyle, but I don't know how many people know the track that you submitted, that California.
Oh
song.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That was such a dope song. But I remember one time you were talking about like, I'm so sick of that song.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, but that song was the bomb though. It was a good song.
Oh, it's funny because I would perform it. I would go to all these shows and everyone said, perform California. And I would never perform it because prior to the California song releasing, we had already heard it like 300 times in the studio. And then so the first time it dropped on KML, that was everybody's first time hearing it. But it was like my 301 time hearing it. I was like, oh God, not again. And then when I went to shows, they said, perform the song. I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to perform something else. And they would just get pissed because I wouldn't perform what they wanted to hear, man. But I said, hey, I got to be stubborn, man. I got to be me.
That's crazy. So now I want to also touch on another subject because I remember when you and I first met up. Actually, yes. It was on your birthday, which, by the way, thank you, because I feel so bad for this because it was your birthday, but you brought presents for me. It was like you brought me your catalog. I was like, whoa. I was like, whose birthday is it? And I'm like, he's bringing me presents. But anyways, but shouts out because I remember when we were talking and you were telling me, I can't remember. I know your brother was there.
Yes.
I can't remember if it was your cousin or sister-in-law or somebody else was there.
My sister-in-law, yes.
Sister-in-law. And they were, she was like laughing because I remember she thought it was funny that I knew you as a rapper because you said that in your hometown at the time, people didn't really know you as a rapper. They knew you as a boxer. Like, do you want to speak on that? Like, what's your rep there? Because like, obviously I know how I perceive you and you've spoken on how you were perceived in New Zealand. But what are things like in Vacaville where you're from? Like you're known as Uptown Suite the boxer or Mo the boxer or Coach Mo now?
Yeah, so it goes both ways. I grew up out here boxing. Vacaville it's a boxing town. We got a lot of good boxers that came out of here. So I grew up in the Mexican gyms out here. My brother's a fighter. My dad was a boxer back in the islands. Everybody in my family was just fighting. So my brother was actually, he was really good. We used to street fight all the time, man, and we never thought that we could be any better than street fighters until we started training and whatnot. And I was like, hey, we can take this a little bit further. But I always loved fighting. Yeah, so I grew up in the gyms out here or whatnot, and everybody just knew me as a fighter. The only Samoan that, that will fight, in all these gyms. Because everybody was Mexican. The whole town, Vacaville was all Mexican. If you wanted to grow up, or if you wanted to box out here, or you wanted to hang in the gym, and you were anything other than Mexican, you better come with it, man. I said, because they tried to run you up out of there and whatnot. So, but I grew up, started boxing out here, man, since I was maybe 13. Before that, we were already competing in Tongsudo and Kajikembo when I was younger. But once I found boxing, that was it. I said, oh, man, I can break this guy's nose and, and shake his hand at the end. I said, yeah, I think this is for me, man. So I just always loved fighting, man, and it turned into ended up becoming, coaching and whatnot. So the gym opened 4 years ago. In those last 4 years, I've coached almost 400 to 500 kids. Some have gone on to have amateur fights. Some maybe have aspirations of turning pro, but You know, it's to me, it's just, you know, getting to use, you know, the art that I love, that I grew up loving, you know, watching fights with my pops and whatnot, you know, for something bigger. You know, I tell all the kids that come through the door, you know, 9 out of 10 you guys aren't going to become boxers, you know, and the ones that do, you know, if that's what you want to do, I'll support you. But I'm more concerned with using boxing as a catalyst, you know, to create functional, good individuals, you know, out in society, man, that we can depend on, that people can depend on, that can go out there, man, and help build a better infrastructure for our communities or whatnot. You know, that's my main concern, man, making good men and women that are going to raise, you know, other good men and women, you know, in the years to come, man, through boxing. So boxing is just, you know, the platform, you know, for something bigger, man. And, you know, like I said, everything, all the lessons you learn in boxing are 100% transferable to real life. I tell my kids, you know, when you wake up and you have kids one day, nobody's going to feed your kids for you. You know, nobody's going to say, hey, Johnny, you know, you're late to work. No, they're just going to fire your ass, man. I said, so if you have no discipline in your life, I said, let it start here, man, because you're going to need discipline one day. And if you never had none, you never had no figure in your life to tell you, I said, you know, what to do or to show you that, you know, there's a better way to do it than what you've been doing or what you've been shown. I said, let it start right here. So I've been blessed that, you know, I went around the world and came right back here to my hometown, you know, and was able, you know, and was able to use one of the gifts that God gave me, man, to really make an impact on my community. You know, it's and that saying, I always think of that saying, man, ole Allah, ile pule ole tautua, you know, the path to leadership is through service. And it is, you know, and that's something that I see more and more every day. It's never about us, man. You know, these gifts that we're given, whether it's emceeing, whether it's boxing, you know, these are gifts given to us for a reason, bigger than ourselves, you know, to serve others. It's never about us. It's what we can do for others, man. You know, and that's all it is, you know. Everything I do in my days now, whether it's rapping, you know, I just want to serve. I just want to be a servant, an instrument, you know, of the Most High. That's it. That's it, and that's all, man.
Speaking of service, a while ago you had to help teach a lesson to a young buck and humble this young man and help him grow as well.
Oh, you guys saw that? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to In-Game Training for keeping the footage.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I cursed in that video too. Sorry, man. You pissed me off. Yeah.
So can we talk about it?
Can we talk? Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay. So the story, it's actually, so one of the kids I trained, Gilbert, he moved to Bakersfield now. He came in. He used to work at this auto shop next door, and he had this friend that came with him. And from the minute his friend came in, man, it was always, I said, hey, what's up? And, you know, you always had that undertone of, oh, man, you ain't nothing. You ain't nothing. So I just let it slide. He came to visit one day, and I took all my gear off, and here he goes, man. So that's it? I said, what do you mean that's it?
Can I eat some?
He said, no, Mo.
What is it?
Go. Come on. Yeah. So he came, and he said, that's it, insinuating that I was, you know, taking my gear off, you know, to hide from him, you know, skinny, you know, Meuli guy, maybe 130 pounds. I said, hey, man. I said, yeah, just leave it alone. He said, oh, okay. He said, all right. So after that, I said, what are you saying? You say I'm trying to run from you? Oh, that's what I'm saying. You taking your gear off? Man, so I went and put my gear back on. Wife was calling. She pressed mute on the call. And that was it. And then the footage happened of what you saw. And the aftermath was him sitting on the curb saying, I think I got to throw up. I said, okay, hope you learn your lesson. Have a good day.
It's like, man, that's it. See, that's your second viral video, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, shout out! I believe it was Darnell who posted that one. Which thank you, because that was I saw that. Like, I run like a little like a fan group for MMA. And I saw that and I immediately shared it to that. I'm like, hey, look at my Uso over here, like, you know, reminding people what's what.
Yeah. But the good thing is, like I told him after, you know, I told him after, I said, hey, it's better I taught you the lesson than somebody else, because somebody else might not have had the decency to stop. You know, somebody else might have, you know, caught you with your mouth like that and, you know, potentially killed you. You don't know. Something I said, I cared about you enough to teach you the lesson and let you slide. Now maybe you can go and say, okay, well, I'm not doing that again. So it was a hard lesson, but sometimes lessons need to be hard. Not every lesson is soft.
That's
and
true.
that was a hard lesson.
Right.
Hard for him, not me. It was easy for me.
So you said you cussed in the video, but the thing that I heard the most was them body shots. I was like, "Wow!"
Oh yeah,
dang, man.
I know,
but it was good though, because I'm like, some people really do the whole kindness for weakness thing, just because you're chilled out nowadays, and that you're trying to pass on positivity. It's a shame if some people are taking that as like, "Oh, he's soft. He ain't got that dog in him." It's like, oh no, it's still there.
yeah, it's still there. It's always there, man.
Dang. That was dope. But shouts out to that. And it's really cool to see you in that coaching role, and like, basically demonstrating the lessons you pass on to your students, because I'm positive like there's probably a lot of your students don't even know that you can get down like that. Like, I know they don't doubt your skills, but like, man, they don't have to test it. Don't test it. It's like,
nah, they know. Yeah, I still spar on the week. I just sparred a state champion last week, man. Had to show them what time it is. So
dang, that's crazy. So I've been thinking about this question a bit because, like I said, it's been a pleasure to witness your evolution as a rapper and as a person. And I was thinking, because like one of my favorite all-time albums ever was your the original release of Church Street Blues, and I do like the re-release that you did with Digital Martyrs. That was dope too. But the thing is, one of my favorite tracks on that was a song called "The Seed." The Seed, and so it's like, so that's the one where the whole narrative is you talking to your yet unborn kids and talking about, okay, this is what my upbringing was like. Here's the things that I grew up with, but here's also the kind of father that I want to be. And like, I was like, that speaks to me, because like to this day, I still am not a father. Like, I still want to be a father one day. And so a lot of the things that you put on that track is something that I was like, man, it's like he's talking for me almost. It's and so, but the reason I bring that up is because since then, that album dropped, that first one dropped in 2010. And since then, you have become a father. You've got a 7-year-old. 7-year-old? Yeah.
It's about to be 7.
About to be 7. And so I was wondering, what is it like for you now? As like, if I know you couldn't remember the track the most clearly, but
I do. I just remembered. I was thinking, I said,
just come back.
Yeah, and it just came back to me.
I just wanted you to reflect. So how is your actual experience with fatherhood changed? And I guess in contrast to what you had put down on that track back before you were a dad.
I love it. Honestly, I love being a parent. I said it's probably, the greatest job I could ever be blessed with,
I'm hungry.
Huh?
I'm hungry.
Wait. Okay.
Perfect time.
There's your parenthood right now, calling
right
you.
there.
You go. Hey. Okay. Wait.
I know my takeaway.
There's croissants over there. I'll get you after, okay? Wait, almost.
We'll wrap it up soon. We will promise.
She's being hurt. But I love it, man. But now remembering back to the song, it was, growing up in my household, it was a typical rough, Samoan household, very physical household, which is really what kind of embarked me on, the journey to fighting, gangs, a lot of things in my life, up until, New Zealand, when I, cleared my record and was able to leave the country. They were just dictated, my decisions. A lot of them were based upon, the violence I grew up around or whatnot. Just a real physical household, man. I knew I didn't want to pass that on to my daughter, man, because of the way it made me feel, And I didn't talk to my moms up until not too long ago. I said maybe a couple years or whatnot because of all that physicality. So it's funny, when I was going to leave back to New Zealand, my mom told me, she said, I really don't want you to leave back to New Zealand. She said, just give me a second chance, to write, some of the things that I addressed, as most of my discography on the early records, of how physical it was in my household. She said, I just want another chance. And I was like, nah, Mom. I said, I'm gone. I said, I'm leaving. I'm not coming back. But as things will have you, God didn't have it to be, and I was able to come back, and thank God I was able to come back because I was able to I don't right up there maybe more. I was able to kind of
Toilet paper.
okay, use toilet paper. It's the same thing. It's softer. Okay. Mo, fakali mai.
Put it for my croissant to put it.
Just use. You don't need a croissant. You don't need a napkin for it. Just put it in your hand and then put it in your mouth and then you're over. Okay.
Are you good, man?
Okay, after Mo. Pelma. Yeah, so that, like I said, back to the podcast, that, I don't know, remembering that song and everything, in that moment, like I told you, when I was getting ready to leave back to New Zealand for good, I made that decision up in my mind. Because a big part of me leaving to New Zealand, initially leaving to New Zealand, was running from those past demons, you know? I was trying to get away from these demons. And Mo, I was trying to just get away, and I don't think anybody understood that, you know, what was going on. And I don't think a lot of people, you know, understand, for a lot of us that grew up in those type of households, how it was. You know, we didn't have mental health. You know, we couldn't tell nobody about what was going on. We couldn't be open like we are now. If I go and say, hey, my parents are doing this, or, you know, my dad used to knock me out, my mom used to knock me out, they're going to say, oh, man, you know, look at you. How can you talk about your parents like that? But that's really what went on in a lot of the households. And because we couldn't talk, we had that gag order. You know, a lot of us suffered in silence. What we end up with is high youth suicide numbers, you know, a high crime rate, high gang enlistment rates, all these different things, man, that are byproducts of the abusive households that we grow up in. And that was really what it was, man. Me going to New Zealand was running away from that and just trying to figure out, you know, trying to find some peace of mind. But like I said, what have you, God intervenes. And upon, you know, my final departure, when I told my mom, you know, this is it, I'm leaving, and she said, son, just give me another chance, you know, to try to right those wrongs. I'm sorry, you know, that I raised you in so much anger or whatnot. And it was able to transfer over, man. And we were able to rekindle that relationship, and it was able to heal, you know, my heart a lot in forgiving my mom, forgiving, you know, my dad, you know, in letting us get beat that bad, you know, or anything that happened to us. And I was able to raise, you know, my kids in turn, my daughter in turn, you know, the way that I wanted to raise, the way that I talked about on that record.
That's excellent. Yeah, and it's a very heartfelt record. That's why I like that one. That record is still one of my all-time faves, because you really opened up to people and let us see that inside. But it's like, it wasn't just you know, talking about the bad times. The thing is, what was always very apparent to me hearing that track and hearing the other tracks was, you know, you acknowledged the bad things that were done to you, but I could still hear it in your voice that you still had this love for your parents.
Yeah.
Like and that was a genuine conflict that I know a lot of Polynesians have, where it's like they may be subjected to some of the worst conditions, but they never question whether or not they love their parents. You know, it's a hard thing to reconcile. And so
definitely
all-time classic album.
Yeah.
You know, and your new music continues that trend too. Still opens up on a lot of those subjects as well. All right. Well, thank you very much. I don't want to keep you for the whole night. I know you got a lot going on. I appreciate your time, and thank you to Moana, because I know we're borrowing your daddy for a long time. You know, it's like, you know, you got that legit daddy duty going on, and we appreciate that, and we respect it too. So I just wanted to throw it to T real quick. He's going to give us a recap, and if you wanted to give us some final words before we dip out, please do.
Not too much, man. Just God bless, and you know, God keep everybody, man.
Just to keep this short, because Moana wants them croissants. we went over Uptown Suite's origins and how Spencer met Uptown and established that relationship, and how it's held on to today. But just to keep things short, the main thing I want to get across is Uptown's evolution as an artist, a person, and now, which led to him also growing enough to be a good father. Listeners, this episode. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I guess I said while we on it, you know, you know, you asked if I had any last words. So in sharing, you know, my journey, my story or whatnot, I encourage anybody that needs healing, man, to heal. You know, whatever your journey is, man, whatever trauma you might have in your past, find that forgiveness, man, and find that time, find that journey to healing, man, because we can't expect to do, for our families, we can't expect to do for our kids moving forward if we're not healed, So we got to heal ourselves, man, and we got to really, embark on those journeys to talk about these issues, whether it be through music or whatever. We just got, we got to heal if we want the next generation to be better, and the generation after that to be better. We have to take that initiative, man, to really heal ourselves. And it's not gonna be all peaches and cream. It hasn't been a lot of sunshine for me, man. It's been more rain and darkness, if anything. But there is light at the end of the tunnel for everybody, man. It's never too late. I said, hold grudges, throw that out the window. Find in your heart to throw that out the window. You ain't get along with your brother. Hey, call him up. You ain't talk to your moms, call her up. You don't talk to your dad, call him up, man. Your homeboy is too short, man. I said, we got but a little bit of time on this planet. Let's make the most of it, man, and let's work to really build, if not for us, then for the future generations, in everything that we do. Remember, our gifts are not from us, man. Our gifts are from the Most High, and we hold that responsibility, knowing that those gifts are from the Most High, not of ours, to return them to the Most High. Every blessing got to come back to where it came from, man. And everything comes from, up above. It don't come from us. So in knowing that, man, you guys out there, whether you in digital art world, whether you in music, whether you're a janitor, you can touch people through being a janitor. Everybody serves a purpose, man. But remember, your gifts, are bigger, than yourself, man. Like I said earlier, that saying, the path to leadership is through service, and it really is. And you don't have to be, a top of the line MC. You don't have to be a boxer. You can be of service just sitting there and whatever you do. You can work at Panera and be of service and touch somebody, man, and change somebody's life. So we're all here for a purpose, man. And community sticks together. Building community, I said, it's everything, man. I said it's everything. It's everything to me. I don't know about other people, but I'm always destroy and rebuild, man. That, like I said, my life, if I say anything, it's a testament of destroy and rebuild, man. Out with the old, in with the new, man. And that's it. I guess on that note, that's basically what I want to end on.
Woo! And there you have it.
Those are bars.
Mic drop. Hey, everybody, listeners, that's what this whole episode has been about. Uptown Suite. Thank you for blessing us with the knowledge and sharing your journey to help us learn how to learn and grow, and educating people that they can find healing. And you got to go through things to grow. So once again, thanks for blessing us with your time. Thank you, Moana, for allowing us to utilize your iPad and interfere with your snack time. This has been Behind the Lava. We out.